define the problem, state your objectives, look at alternative courses of action, choose one course of action, defend that choice, make a plan, make a contingency plan if your plan doesn't work. But one of the things I had to live through while I was in Sri Lanka
Hmm.
was the ethnic riots of July 1983.
Okay.
That was an episode which is still vivid in my mind because it was a kind of almost an act of genocide. Market research in India and other countries.
Right.
And I have to say that some of the smartest women in these industries, our smartest people in these industries are women.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
went to Saudi Arabia in 1990-91
Hmm.
to work for Citibank there.
Hmm.
And now women can work in banking, but only in women's only branches. So that means no man can enter those branches. When COVID happened, a lot of things slowed down and I had more time on my hands.
Right.
And then I was reading those articles, just reviewing them, and then I realized that there is a book here somewhere.
Hmm.
So I decided to then compile it into a organized sort of set of chapters.
Hi, Rajiv, and welcome to the AboutHer Show. This is a show where we get actually trailblazing women to share the story of their lives with us. Because we believe that when they talk about, the story, the journey, successes, failures, challenges, not only do they get a platform to showcase themselves, but they also help us inspire other women. A lot of women have dreams out there, but for some reason are just not able to follow those dreams, are just, kind of sitting there and not doing anything about it. So we want them to get inspired. And along with women, we also get men, men who we believe champion such women, because ultimately, if we want a world which is gender inclusive, both men and women need to be allies in this journey. And when I was reading about you and what I've heard from people who know you, I think you are one of those men who has been championing women. I mean, you've not had any kind of a bias. See, there are things like unconscious bias which happen because you don't realize what you're doing. But what I have seen in the book and what I've heard from people is that you are one of those who is not going to consciously, do something which is going to, undermine women or be detrimental to their interests. So then I felt that such kind of a person, such kind of a man needs to be on our podcast for sure. So therefore, a very, very warm welcome to you.
Well, thank you, Sangeeta. I'm happy to note that you have this view of me. uh, and yeah, I'm delighted to be on the show and have a chat about, well, partly about my interaction with ladies in the corporate sector and how successful they've been actually.
Yes, and it's going to be a mix of both. I mean, we're going to, of course, be talking about your journey as well. So then,
So,
let's start from the very beginning. I mean, of course, I've read the book, so I do have an idea. But if today
yeah.
you were to reflect upon your journey, so my question to you is that what was your early life like? Growing up, especially your time at the Lawrence School, then college, then I'm Ahmedabad, and how do you think all these experiences they shaped your curiosity, your worldview, and the professional drive that we could see in your journey.
Yeah, thank you. Well, since you read the book, you would have probably gathered from the first chapter that
Yeah,
I am a Fauji brat. I am the son of a naval officer,
yeah,
right?
right, yeah.
And as a result, until the age of about 10,
Mm.
because of my father's peripatetic sort of career, he in fact at one time held the record for the maximum number of houses lived in different places.
Wow,
Okay.
okay. Hmm.
So I moved with him from one naval or military establishment to another for those first 10 years.
Okay.
Started in Mumbai, then went to INS Shivaji near Lonavala, which is a naval engineering establishment,
Hmm.
then NTA Khadakwasla, then the Defense Services Staff College in Wellington, and so on and so forth. So I spent the early years of my life among a very disciplined set of people in very smart uniforms, saluting each other and marching in parades and so on and so forth.
Hmm.
And I think this made quite an impression on me, right? So frankly, if I hadn't developed a bad eyesight at the age of 10,
Hmm.
I would have probably tried to join the armed forces. But unfortunately, that was not to be. And my father decided that, look, instead of moving around so much, put him in one place where he can study and not be disturbed for a few years.
Yeah.
So he decided to put me into the Lawrence School, Lovedale in Ooty, near Ooty,
Mm-hmm.
which is a school at about 7,000 feet altitude, has 700 acres of grounds, and a magnificent institution. Now, as you probably know, this school was started by a guy called Sir Henry Lawrence, and he actually built four schools,
Hmm.
one in Lovedale, one in Sanaur, one in Mount Abu, and one in Murray in Pakistan.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
one in Mount Abu is no longer, I think, a school, but
Hmm.
the other three. So these schools also had a very strong military tradition because they were originally set up for the children of British Army personnel.
Right, right.
And in fact, our school uniform was a khaki trouser and green battle jackets.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah, and we spent many weeks of the year practicing for parades for our Founders Day in the hot, very sharp sunshine at 7,000 feet, where
Hmm.
my batchmates would kind of topple over and faint because of the hot sun. We
Yeah.
also had to hold dummy rifles
Hmm.
and so on. So, the military traditions continued, and the cup of tea, early morning tea, used to be called Chota Hazri, which is what British
Okay.
uh, regiments, army regiments used to refer to
Hmm.
their tea as. So I think this military influence has been very important in my life, and I think has made me the kind of individual I am, which I believe I'm reasonably disciplined, reasonably organized, and I modestly would say reasonably ethical,
Huh.
which I think most service officers are.
Okay. Extremely modest.
Now,
All right.
extremely modest. Now we put both my sons into the same school
Okay.
against the protestations of my wife, who said, "How can you put your two boys into an institution so far away from home at such an early age?"
Hmm. Hmm.
I was convinced that if you spend a few years in a boarding school,
Yeah.
it makes you a very different kind of individual because you have to learn to manage on your own independently, sometimes in very tough situations.
Right.
You become much more confident, much more resilient, much more able to act independently.
Hmm.
And that stands you in very good stead in later life. And I feel that that has also influenced me in my life. And
Hmm.
I'm very sure it has helped both my boys. So, for example, when they finished school, they wanted to go to the US for further studies.
Okay.
Now, I would have been petrified to send them off to the US on their own
Hmm.
if they hadn't spent several years in a boarding school,
Right. Right.
right? Have to adjust to living on your own in a foreign country would have been very challenging
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
very, I think, traumatic for parents,
Right.
worrying about them all the time. But because they had that exposure, I thought I was much more confident to send them
Hmm.
there. And they managed very well, I have to say.
Hmm.
Also, talking about boarding schools a little bit more, I think what they do is they expose you to a very wide range of activities and things to do,
Yeah.
which also help you become a very well-rounded personality. So, I mean, I played cricket, hockey, basketball, football, tennis, squash, table tennis,
Hmm. Hmm.
etc. I ran in marathons, participated in athletics, rode horses,
Yeah.
acted in plays, did music and art classes, etc. This
Hmm.
is not to say that city schools don't offer these things. They do, many of them do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, I think the variety and the number of these things that a boarding school offers is much greater because they have the infrastructure and the space. City
That's
schools typically don't have that, right?
right. Hmm.
So, uh, I think having been able to do all these things, I still do some of these things even today,
Yes.
right?
We know that. We know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, I mean, I think that again has helped to kind of shape my life as it is today. The kind of facilities that you get in a boarding school, very few city schools can match.
True.
And as I was saying, I continued to do a lot of these activities in later life, including in college and then when I did my MBA. Another important factor, by the way, is that Lawrence School is a co-educational boarding school.
Okay.
Uh, so there was a batch of girls. The numbers, of course, were much smaller than the number of boys.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at an early stage, one learned to interact with and, have common activities with a lot of the girls in the school.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. 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 Okay.
So then I went on to do my BA in economics and political science at Bombay University in Elphinstone College, Bombay.
Right. Right.
And, honestly, I think while a lot of the professors there were quite good, I don't think the college pushed me enough academically, right? They
Okay.
didn't push too much for academic excellence. I did reasonably well in college in Elphinstone College in terms of academics, but I think it didn't get the best out of me. So my 3 years in Bombay, in Elphinstone College, Bombay, I have mixed feelings about.
Okay.
But again, co-educational and had a lot to do with the ladies there. I became sort of chairman of the debating society, so we would have a lot of debates with which have male students in those events. Now, IIM Ahmedabad, which followed this, I joined with no work experience, unlike many of my batchmates who had come after working for a few years.
Yeah.
IIM Ahmedabad was a very different kettle of fish. Okay, first of all, in those days, I'm talking about 1974,
Yeah. Yeah.
160 people got admission out of 60,000 applications. Now,
Okay.
now that was in those days. Now it's become much more
Yeah. Yeah.
competitive than that.
Right.
Yeah. And what you realize when you got in is, first of all, it's a very humbling experience because you find that there are hundreds of chaps who are much smarter than you.
Definitely.
Okay. So you may have been a topper or whatever in your own previous life, but here you are like one among many.
Yeah. Yeah.
The pace of work also was relentless. I have never experienced anything like that in the first term of IIM Ahmedabad. There was no time to eat, sleep, nothing. You were constantly working.
Okay.
Okay. And that itself is a trial by fire. It's a training process to learn how to manage your time, to
Yes.
sift the chaff from the grain, etc.
Correct.
The professors, by and large, were outstanding. I mean, we worked under some really great professors, many of whom have risen to, uh, in world economics and in world business, they've become very famous people. C.K. Prahlad, Govindarajan, C.
Yeah.
Rangarajan, who's in the Reserve Bank governor, etc. Now, IIM Ahmedabad used the case method to teach,
Okay.
like Harvard Business School. So
Yeah.
IMA is a kind of a protege of Harvard Business School. This case method I found was amazing in terms of what it taught you, because it taught you to look at business problems in a very analytical, critical way, and I also required you to be a very good communicator because you had to discuss cases in the classroom and make your points,
Right.
right? So the case method, I think, changed the way we thought because in school and college, it was a rote method of learning.
Yes.
This was a completely new experience, right? There was one particular course called WAC, Written Analysis and Communication. This, to my mind, has been the best course I have ever done anywhere.
Okay. Okay.
Basically, what happens is you're given a case at 5 p.m. on a Friday, and you have to work on the case and deliver your report by 8 a.m. the next morning.
Okay.
Now, the case is usually 100 plus pages, lots of data, lots of annexures, lots of information, and it ends with one question. What should Mr. So-and-so do and why?
Okay. Okay.
And the way you have to answer that is in a structured way. Define the problem, state your objectives, look at alternative courses of action, choose one course of action, defend that choice, make a plan, make a contingency plan if your plan doesn't work.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Right? And you have to do all this overnight, and half the data you're given in that case is not relevant to the case. I mean, to the problem you have been solving. So the first issue is how do you define the problem?
Right.
What is the problem? That is actually the most difficult thing you actually face in real life, even in business
Yes.
situation.
Yes. 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 Very
You know,
true.
when you're in a corporate meeting, one of the questions I always used to ask is, so what is the problem we are trying to solve? Because everybody has opinions,
Yeah.
but nobody has defined the problem.
Correct.
So this program, this course, I think taught me more about how to tackle situations, whether personal or business,
Right.
better than any other course that I had ever done.
Hmm.
Now, so this MBA program, in my opinion, is meant to create general managers. It's not meant to create specialist managers. It's
Okay.
not meant to create accountants or production managers or operations managers
Yeah.
or finance managers. It is meant to create general managers because that's why they teach you a vast variety of subjects around management.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that if I hadn't done an MBA,
Hmm.
there is no way that I could have tackled the various assignments that came my way over a 40-year corporate career. Because I worked in very unrelated fields, started in advertising, market research, brand management, consumer banking, credit cards, asset management, private banking, knowledge management.
Hmm.
Now, these are all quite different,
Yes. Absolutely.
but because you had the foundation of a MBA, you were able to tackle any problem that came your way with some confidence because you understood the all the business issues around those problems.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Also, I think without an MBA, I don't think I would have been able to go at the age of 25 to a country I'd never been to before and set up a company,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
uh, Sri Lanka's first market research company at
Hmm.
the age of 25.
Right. Right.
So I owe my 2 years at IIM Ahmedabad a great deal
Hmm. Hmm.
for what it has taught me about business and about life.
Very true, very true. I mean, I was also reading and, of course, listening to you. I mean, I think education makes the most difference in your life. If you don't get what is required, because education is not just bookish knowledge, it has to teach you life skills as well, because ultimately it is the life skills which hold you in good stead. Yes, you do need that, knowledge base and all of that. That's important. But then what to do with that knowledge? I mean, I may be having all the
Absolutely.
bookish knowledge in the world, but if I don't know how to put it to use, then it is actually of no use. So yes, that element, the practicality part of it has to be, very much like all these case studies and all that you're talking about. I think they're so essential because they
Yeah,
actually tell you what the real world situation is going to be and how are you going to, tackle it. Okay.
absolutely.
So Rajiv, I mean, if we look at your career, of course, you've had an extremely rich and varied corporate career. So again, if you were to look back and reflect, what were some defining moments or unexpected detours that shaped your journey as an itinerant executive, as you would like to call yourself?
Well, as I mentioned in the book, uh, I went to Sri Lanka to set up this company, and this was a trial by fire,
Hmm, hmm,
right?
hmm,
So at the age of 25, I was offered by my company the opportunity to go there. It was a joint venture between the global parent company MRB Group, which was a part of J. Walter Thompson,
hmm.
and local Sri Lankan partners who were our joint venture partners. The partner was Maharaja Organization, which is a very large business house in Sri Lanka.
Right,
And we were setting up two companies. One was an advertising agency and one was a market research firm. I was leading the market research firm and I was there all by myself. There were four colleagues setting up the ad agency.
hmm,
Now, I had to do everything single-handedly. I had to, hire staff, train staff, set up the office, educate clients about what I was trying to sell because market research was relatively unheard of in those days. I'm talking about 79.
hmm, hmm.
Uh, and so everything had to be done basically by me. There was nobody else to help me.
Okay.
And so I spent 3 years there. I set up the company. I made it financially very profitable.
Hmm,
And then I moved on from there. But one of the things I had to live through while I was in Sri Lanka
Hmm.
was the ethnic riots of July 1983.
Okay.
That was that was an episode which is still vivid in my mind because it was a kind of almost an act of genocide
Hmm.
where the entire Tamil population of Colombo city lost their homes and shops in one night. They were all firebombed.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
We had many Tamil staff.
Hmm.
So the Tamils are quite smart people. They're, they are hardworking. And we
Hmm.
had a lot of people in both the companies who were Tamils. And they had overnight lost their homes.
Right. Right.
So now, as a leader, what I had found is now everybody looking to me, for help.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had to get in my car. I had to drive around town in non-curfew hours. I spoke to Unilever and Nestle, who were my clients. They were in the food industry and begged them to give me some food which I could distribute to my staff because the wholesale trade of food in Colombo city in Sri Lanka is controlled by Tamils
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
they were all decimated. So no food was available.
Hmm.
We had to find substitutes and so on. So anyway, this was a 14-day kind of event. And what I realized is that, in a crisis,
Hmm. Hmm.
you have to be all things to your team. Your team is your family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look up to you for all kinds of support, whether it's financial support, whether it's logistical support, or whether it's emotional support.
Right.
You
Right.
have to be all things to all people, and you cannot be found wanting in a crisis situation if you're in a leadership position.
Absolutely.
I think that was one of the big lessons for me.
Hmm.
And again, frankly, if I hadn't had the kind of educational background that I had, I would not have been able to tackle this kind of situation.
Right. Right. Right.
So that was, I think, one of the most defining moments of my career. And I realized one thing that if I was able to tackle a job like this, then any other job that comes my way,
Hmm.
I wouldn't be too scared about taking it on.
Yes. 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 So actually, in a way, this experience over there actually, I think it showed you in a way how holistic the entire process of leadership has to be. You're not just
Right.
there for people in good times, but in bad times as well. You have to lead by example. You can't run away from the situation. You, in fact, have to lead and show the way. So, you were putting into practice whatever you had learned, and you were, setting an example. You were actually walking the talk, which is, I think, so essential because a lot of us, we love lecturing people. We love giving suggestions and, all pieces of advice, but we don't actually do it. You did it. So I think that, of course, made, I'm sure, a lot of difference. So again, Rajiv, looking at your corporate career, one sees that you worked across geographies, sectors, and leadership roles. So obviously, different kinds of transitions at different points in time. So again, if you were to look back, how did these transactions affect your understanding of leadership and cultural intelligence? Because I think leading by understanding the culture is also very, very important. Like you can't, have the same. You have to have different strokes for different folks. You can't do the same thing everywhere. So how did that happen for you?
So yeah, so I worked in 5 countries, right? So India, Sri Lanka, the United Kingdom, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE.
Yeah.
And all these are very different from each other
Hmm.
in terms of culture, in terms of the work environment, in terms of the way people behave, etc., etc. Just to give you a few examples. For instance, when I was a young brand manager managing Horlicks in a company called HMM, which later became GlaxoSmithKline,
Hmm.
uh, I'm talking about now the late 70s, like around 78 to 80, 81.
Hmm.
Uh, it was considered the done thing to work very long hours, right?
Okay.
So nobody in the office would get up from his seat at 5:30 when officially the office closed
Hmm.
and go home. If you
Okay.
were seen doing that, right, then the general view was that you are not a very committed employee, right? You're just killing time.
Hmm.
And honestly, if you're looking for promotions and so on, that wouldn't come your way. You
Okay.
had to be there, till 8:30, 9, slogging away, doing something so that your bosses would notice and would appreciate that.
Hmm.
Now, when I went to the UK, which was after my stint in Sri Lanka,
Hmm.
I found the complete opposite of this.
Yeah.
People would come at 8 o'clock, 8:30, leave on the dot at 5 p.m.
Hmm.
Okay. During the lunch hour, we would occasionally play a game of squash and
Okay.
sometimes follow it up with a pint of beer
Hmm. Hmm.
and leave at 5 o'clock. Nobody
Okay.
expected you to stay longer than that time. In fact, we had a wine bar in our building owned by the organization. So
Okay.
people were quite, they were able to go and have a quick drink if they wish to. So now here are two very contrasting cultures. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Concept of work-life balance, we had somehow not understood at that time. Now it's of course changed a lot.
Yeah.
But in the British culture, it's very ingrained in their British culture, the way they approach things.
Hmm. Hmm.
And you have to respect that. So if you're a leader in that type of organization, you cannot expect your employees to go the extra mile and take on some assignment and work till midnight to deliver your results. You
Right.
have to deal with the fact that they will go home at 5:30.
Yeah.
Okay. Sri Lanka, by the way, was in many ways like the Brits. They were fairly laid back and not prone to working long hours.
Okay.
Now, another aspect which I want to talk about is the role of women and
Hmm.
how it was different in different countries. So I worked in advertising and market research in India and other countries.
Right.
And I have to say that some of the smartest women in these industries, smartest people in these industries are women.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There are some aspects. For example, in market research, there is a branch of research which is called qualitative research.
Okay.
This is really, understanding the consumer in depth and his drives, motivation, needs, wants, etc., in
Absolutely.
order to then create products and solutions for the consumer.
Hmm.
Qualitative research is dominated by women. They are streets ahead of men in this because their understanding of the human mind, the way people think and behave, their sensitivity to nuances of behavior, nuances of response in a focus group discussion
Hmm.
is far superior to that of men. Men, of
Okay.
course, there are quite a few good qualitative researchers, but nowhere near compared to the number of women. So
Okay.
just an example. So uh, in these industries, a lot of women occupy senior leadership positions because the industry recognizes what they contribute to them.
Okay.
Now, contrast this with a country like Saudi Arabia.
Oh
So I
yeah.
went to Saudi Arabia in 1990-91
Hmm.
to work for Citibank there.
Hmm.
And now women can work in banking, but only in women's only branches. So that means no man can enter those branches.
Yeah.
Only women will enter and women, they will be served by women. Okay.
Hmm.
Now we had a private bank which dealt with net worth individuals.
Right.
And we had a small group of ladies who would handle their lady high net worth customers.
Okay.
And they were somewhat illegally sitting in an office in the Citibank headquarters building.
Hmm.
They would be brought to the office early morning in a car with darkened windows, a
Hmm.
limousine,
Hmm.
by a Pakistani driver.
Yeah. Hmm.
They
Hmm.
would they would come, they would enter through the rear elevator, be taken up to the office. They would spend the whole day in the office and then leave the same way, were driven home by the same driver.
Right.
Right? It was like to make sure that nobody ever saw them coming or going or didn't know who they were.
Right.
An interesting incident happened when, on one particular day, these ladies didn't turn up for work. This happened to be a Thursday afternoon,
Hmm.
Thursday evening,
Hmm.
sorry, a Thursday morning.
Okay.
And Thursday and Friday are the weekend. So you
Hmm.
have half day on Thursday and then Friday is a holiday.
Hmm.
So no, nothing could be done immediately because they didn't come for work on a Thursday. And because Friday is a holiday, there was not much we could figure out.
Hmm.
But we did find out that the driver has been arrested and put in jail.
Okay. Okay.
Why did that happen? Because the driver happened to have an old lady who was his neighbor,
Hmm.
Pakistani lady, and she had to make an urgent call to her son who was back at home in Pakistan, who had gone on an urgent visit. She
Okay.
needed to call. So she called this driver, the bank's driver, and said, "Can you please take me to a phone booth?"
Okay. Hmm.
This was days before mobile phones.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, so he took her to a mobile phone, but on the way was stopped by police who said, "Who is this lady?
Hmm.
How is she connected to you?" He said, "She's my neighbor." They said, "Sorry, not allowed because you can only take a blood relative in your car.
Hmm.
So you go to jail." And this lady was submitted to, sorry to say, what we call sex tests
Oh my
to
God.
see if any hanky-panky between, the driver and the old
Okay.
lady. And she was old enough to be his mother.
Oh God. Okay.
Anyway, this poor chap languished in jail until the week began, and then the bank swung into action and then got him eventually released from the police.
Hmm. Hmm.
These are the kind of things that
Yes.
women have to undergo.
Right.
Okay.
Hmm.
My own wife had a very interesting story to tell. She
Hmm.
joined a company called Capital Intelligence, which was headquartered in Cyprus.
Okay.
And her job was to rate banks in the Middle East and other parts of the globe.
Hmm.
And the company told her, please start with Saudi Arabia. So you start working with the banks in Saudi Arabia because you're based there. The
Right.
logical thing.
Hmm.
So she contacted the banks, and the banks told her, look, we can talk to you, but only in the basement. We cannot let you come to the office. In
Hmm.
the car park, we will meet you and have our discussions. So
Okay.
my wife said, I'm sorry, but this doesn't work for me.
Huh.
So, so finally, she was assigned, other countries like UAE was one of them, and so on. And
Hmm.
she didn't work in Saudi, and they had to send a male analyst to work in the Saudi with the Saudi banks.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I'm saying the role of women is so very different,
Absolutely. Yes. 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 Totally.
and women had no rights. They were not allowed to drive.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
covered from head to toe all the time. Uh, and honestly, not a very happy situation. I believe it has changed a great deal now.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, but
Yeah.
there have been too many ups and downs in that country when it comes to women's rights.
Right.
So, so you can see how vastly different the cultures are of these different countries when it comes to
Yes, yes. So
topic.
different. And for you to have experienced them, hearing about something, reading about something is quite different from actually experiencing it. Because I think, all these experiences, varied experiences, enrich our lives in so many different ways, make us more knowledgeable, more understanding, more empathetic, sympathetic towards people, because we've actually been through that. So, yes, definitely. I mean, like, so widely experienced and so enriching. Yeah.
Thank you.
Rajiv, of course, you went through so many different kinds of experiences, each one, enriching and, different from the other one. And I'm sure a lot of corporate executives, have the same kind of a journey. They also go through different experiences, but then not everyone decides to write a book, right? So,
Yeah.
what inspired you to write the book, Adventures of an Itinerant Executive? So was there a particular moment or some trigger that that made you feel like writing the book, or that made you feel that you needed to write the book?
Well, actually, I had started writing a few articles
Okay.
drawing on my experiences, which was published in LinkedIn, etc.
Okay.
And and then, maybe a few chapters of the book in more or less were written already
Hmm.
when COVID happened.
Okay.
When COVID happened, a lot of things slowed down, and I had more time on my hands.
Right.
And then I was reading those articles, just reviewing them, and then I realized that there is a book here somewhere.
Hmm.
So I decided to then compile it into a organized sort of set of chapters
Okay.
and write the book. So the trigger was, I guess, COVID, because just when you're running around all day long doing something or the other, you don't feel that you have the time to sit and write a book. But here was time gifted to us,
Yes.
uh, and so that's what happened.
Hmm.
And I mean, if you look at the cover of this book, right, this is
Yes.
what the cover looks like.
Yes, it's right here. I have it too.
Yeah. So if you see the picture, it has got, stories of planes, missiles,
Yeah. Yeah.
golfers, motorcycles, the car, etc., etc. So
Yeah.
behind each of those visuals, there is a story, and
Hmm.
that story is in the book.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so I thought there was enough rich material on a diverse set of topics to offer to my potential readers.
Absolutely. A
And
great hook because you definitely want to know what is all this about. You do want to see, open it and read a few pages. And if I may say so, the book has been written extremely well because it's a conversational tone. So you feel as though you are also part of wherever you are, whether it is your school or your workplace or different parts of the world that you travel to. So, you can just feel at home, and it is like it could have happened to me also. It's that kind of a feeling. And I think that's a great way to write something. Yeah,
thank you.
welcome. All right. So, like we said, of course, all these pictures on the book. And if you read the book, then we know that it is filled with stories that are both insightful and they are human as well. So, when you're writing something like that, which is in a way going over your life, the journey of your life, there are some parts which are not so easy to talk about, not so easy to write about. So, if you were to go back, then do you think that there was one story that was particularly difficult, emotional, or maybe personal to write?
Yeah, I think so. You see, there's one part of a chapter which is to do with my granddaughter. Her name is Yara Faye Inamdar. So this is my son who's married to a Lebanese Catholic girl
Hmm.
called Carol.
Yeah, yeah.
They live in the US.
Hmm.
Now, Yara was their first child,
Hmm.
and she was born on 11th of June 2013,
Hmm.
one day after my birthday.
Okay.
And she had a very difficult arrival. She was in ICU for almost 6 weeks because she had ingested amniotic fluid which went into her lungs.
Okay.
And then she had to be in intensive care for a long period of time. And then luckily she survived all that.
Hmm.
Then it was found that she was suffering from some other problem, which turned out to be, initially there was no clear diagnosis of what it was. So it was basically developmental delay, motor problems, speech problems, etc.
Hmm.
And then they went through a genetic test, a DNA test, and they found that there was actually a defective gene
Okay.
called PP2RFD,
Hmm.
2R5DF.
Hmm.
Uh, and this is called Jordan syndrome. So it's a very rare disease. Why is it called Jordan syndrome? Because there is a gentleman who lives in California called Joe Lang. He's a sort of a lobbyist in Washington.
Hmm.
And his daughter had exactly the same problem, and her name was Jordan. So it was called Jordan syndrome.
Okay. Okay.
And this gentleman had started working on potential cures for this problem.
Hmm.
Uh, and he funded a lot of research and got the state of California to also fund some research on this issue. Now, so this problem is my granddaughter has grown up with this problem. She leads a very difficult life because she's basically suffering from a variety of disabilities.
Hmm.
And Jordan syndrome takes different shapes in different people. So it doesn't have to be exactly the same kind of problem.
Okay.
Now, because Joe Lang has helped with all this, my granddaughter has given up her regular job. She is an engineer, incidentally, and she gave up a job to be the full-time project manager of the Jordan syndrome cure.
Okay.
And now about a few hundred families, I think probably close to 500 families, have been found around the globe with children who suffer from this,
Okay. Okay.
right?
Hmm.
They meet physically once a year in some part of the US and share their stories with the researchers.
Hmm.
And now the researchers are on the verge of a cure. Verge meaning they're about to start clinical trials on the 1st of July.
Okay.
And my granddaughter is part of the clinical trial.
Hmm.
And they're using what is called CRISPR technology, which is gene editing,
Okay.
right? So the important thing about all this is not only will this hopefully provide a cure to all these children,
Hmm.
but will potentially offers a cure for Alzheimer's, autism, and even cancer.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Because the gene issue is common to all these diseases.
Okay.
So we are waiting with bated breath
Hmm.
for the results of this clinical trial.
Okay.
Now, obviously, writing all this was very emotional for us because we have lived through this whole thing for now so many years, 12 years.
Hmm.
And we are now at least now on the verge of some kind of a breakthrough. So we are waiting to see what happens.
All the best, and I hope something works out because then, I mean, of course, I'm sure these were trying times, but maybe there is something, which is going to change.
Yeah.
So, all the best, my best wishes to you.
Fortunately, there's a crack team of researchers working on this project in the US,
Okay.
and so we're hopeful they're successful. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, of course, you mentioned that you did not suddenly decide to write a book. You'd been writing articles which were published here, there, and everywhere. So, kind of, you decided to compile all of them in the form of a book. But then, while you were leading this high fly, busy corporate life, how did you find your writing voice? I mean, how did you decide to start writing? Because, okay, the book came later, the book was a result of the articles, but there must have been that first article that you decided to write. So, what made you do that?
So actually, I have been writing articles on a variety of different subjects over the years.
Okay.
In fact, I'm thinking that the next book might be just a compilation of all those articles because they
Okay.
cover subjects in management, they cover subjects in research, marketing, personal stories, sports stories. So
Hmm.
I've done various things like that.
Okay.
Uh, and I mean, people tell me that I'm a kind of a born storyteller because my HR head used to tell me, you keep telling stories, so why don't you write something down in your book?
Okay. All right.
So yeah, so it's not something very new, but yes, it takes a lot of discipline to actually sit down and put it in the form of
Yes,
a
I
book.
agree. I agree. All right. So you wrote this book, which was, of course, your experiences and, whatever you went through in life. And it's been read by so many people, which I'm sure include your former colleagues and peers. So what is the kind of reaction that you got from there? I mean, did they come out with their own, experiences, reflections? What was it like?
Yeah, I mean, I got an extremely positive response from people who know me. Some either know me well or don't know me by name.
Mm-hmm.
And if you read the reviews of the book on Amazon, you'll find that they're quite generous with their praise.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, by and large. I mean, I think I do have a few people who bought the book who I don't know from Adam. A
Hmm.
lot of the people who bought the book are people I know of or I know well.
Right, right.
So uh, so yeah, the reaction has been I think pretty positive, and they
Mm-hmm.
keep asking me what's your next book going to be about. So that's quite gratifying.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. No, it is, like I said, a well-written book because, interesting, engaging, and personalized. You talk about, things that you went through in life, whether it was your accident or the various adventures that you had in your travel overseas, all of those things. So, yeah. And again, you could relate to all of that. It could have happened to anyone. Okay.
Correct.
So, coming to your wife, now we know that you met her, while you were at IIM Ahmedabad. Now, she was also, of course, she was there and she started working and all of those. And if I believe, like, she was paid more than you in your initial days and all of that. So, of course, once you got married and then you had children, so she decided to quit. And then she decided to switch careers, basically to be with the children, to raise them, and then support you in your journey as well. So, how did that decision of hers and then her presence by your side throughout, how do you think that shaped your life, both personally and professionally?
Well, best decision I made was to marry her.
Yes, I agree. I
Uh,
agree.
uh, and I honestly I could not have done what I did without her support and without her sacrifice. So
Hmm.
when we graduated from IIM Ahmedabad, she got a job with Citibank,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
and I got a job with J. Walter Thompson, which was called Hindustan Thompson in those days.
Hmm.
Her salary was exactly double mine. So she was earning 2,000 rupees a month. Mine was 1,000 rupees.
Hmm. Hmm.
And when I announced to my father that I'm thinking of marrying this lady,
Hmm.
he said, "Are you marrying her for her money?"
Okay. Hmm.
So perhaps that was at the back of my mind, but it wasn't the most important decision, the
Hmm.
most important reason. Anyway, so she had a fairly successful start with Citibank, and she worked for them for 5 years.
Hmm.
And then we decided to take up the Sri Lanka assignment.
Yeah, yeah.
And she said that I will give up my job now. And we already had one kid, and she said, we can build a family while we are there, while you are working. I will not work.
Hmm.
And we actually had our second kid in Colombo
Okay.
uh, while we were there, which was actually a good thing for him because when he was trying to get his green card in the US, he got it very fast because the quota for Sri Lankans is the same as the quota for Indians.
Ah, okay,
It's a
okay.
good byproduct of that decision. Anyway, so she, managed the house and the kids for 3 years while we were in Sri Lanka. And then also when we went to the UK, because she couldn't get a work permit for herself there,
Hmm.
we were there for a year and a half or so. And when we came back to India, she rejoined banking with American Express Bank.
Okay, okay.
And so we were in India for about 5 years. And then again, I said, okay, here's something I'm going to do in Saudi Arabia. So she said, okay, fine, I'll give up my job.
Hmm. Hmm.
And she just, she kept doing this, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, all I can say is thank you because how many women will, with a promising career and a background in IIM Ahmedabad, etc., would like to
Yes,
sacrifice too much.
I agree. I
Uh, and then that job with Capital Intelligence, which I was talking about earlier, she got that offered to her while we were in Saudi Arabia.
Hmm.
And she still does that job 30 plus years later. But she's able to work from home
Okay, okay.
for
So
that.
okay.
So, so yeah, I mean, I think I owe her a great deal in terms of how much she has sacrificed and given up
Hmm.
in order to support my journey and also travel with me to all these places because
Right,
quite
right.
a few women will have said, these are strange places. I don't want to go to Saudi Arabia, for example. It's not
Yes,
good for
yes.
women,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know. So it takes a little bit of courage to do these things.
Absolutely.
But yes, we've managed it so far pretty well.
Yes. And you're right, it's not easy because, if you don't have a job or if you're not working, then it is simple, you just follow. But if you have a thriving career, to be able to leave that, drop that, and join somebody else and maybe live in their shadow, it's not a very easy thing to do. So hats off to her. But then when we talk about it, it is a two-way street. If she decided to do
Right.
this, then I'm sure there was something that you were also doing which made her feel confident in being able to, like kind of just do away with her financial independence for some time because she had you. So, in this context, what role do you think men should play in creating more inclusive and equitable environments for women, both at work and in society?
Well, as I was saying, in my career, I've had the good fortune to work with women in quite a few of the companies that I worked in. Right? As
Yeah.
I said, in the advertising business, market research business, even in marketing roles, I've had peers who are amazing, colleagues, and they were all women.
Hmm. Hmm.
So the extent to which I've been able to observe situations where women are unequal
Hmm.
is relatively limited. Right?
Okay.
I have not seen it to happen too often in the companies that I worked in or in the jobs that I had.
Okay.
But yes, I have seen some instances of it, and I think men need to do a little bit more than we normally do. So, in most corporates, I think there is an old boys club or a boys club,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? And the women tend to get excluded from this because, in terms of sheer numbers, the men obviously dominate in
Yeah.
terms of, even in the business school, for example, we had maybe 15 girls and the rest were all, men.
Hmm.
So typically the number of women in an organization who rise, especially who rise to senior positions, is relatively small.
Hmm.
Uh, but I think we as men have to, walk the talk. We have to kind of make sure that women are treated equally, and in fact sometimes even better than men When it comes to things like paternity leave, maternity leave, travel schedules, you can't ask a lady who's delivered a baby 6 months ago to start traveling extensively across the country to do your sales work or whatever.
Correct.
You have to be more considerate and, allow them more flexibility uh, until they are properly back in their feet and they're able to deliver results for you.
Right.
So I think these are a few small things that men can do. I think also we need to speak up when we see cases of harassment or bullying or segregation. A lot of men don't actually challenge this,
Yes, they
and
don't.
I think they need to be a bit more vocal. They need to tell their bosses this is happening and you have got to stop it.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, Rather than let HR department deal with it.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
so yeah, I mean, I think we do need to be a little bit more active, a little bit more vocal,
Hmm.
more considerate,
Yes.
and actually promote the cause of women because women add a huge amount of diversity and difference of opinion to your decision making, and that's very important to get the right decisions.
Absolutely. I totally.
So yeah, so I think we have to encourage that, and I think fortunately I've been lucky that in organizations I work with, managements generally have been supportive of this attitude towards women.
Great to know that. But Rajiv, while you understand this and you say that you've been part of organizations which also understood this, but despite that, there are men who don't understand, or who don't want to understand. So my question to you is that what do you think prevents some men from becoming these, excuse me, active allies? Why can't they rise up to the occasion? I mean, what would you like to tell them?
Yeah, I think most men, right thinking men want to be active allies, but they don't know how to be active allies. I mean, in the sense that people, at least the people I work with, come from enlightened educational backgrounds, etc., decent schools, decent colleges, especially co-educational institutions.
Yeah.
They all have that right attitude towards women themselves. But in a corporate setting, I find that they are a little reticent and
Hmm.
will not speak up, will not challenge, will not put down other men who are displaying toxic masculinity behaviors, and so on and so forth.
Hmm.
So, one is I think they need to firstly understand the women they're working with, learn a bit from them,
Hmm.
listen to what they're saying,
Hmm.
and then put down, as I was saying earlier, instances where they see that women's rights or women's requirements are being ignored or abused. And and I think that is where a lot of men prefer to kind of shy away from this. One, because managements are not often explicit and vocal about what they expect males to do when dealing with women. I think this is an area of training, and there are a lot of companies which do gender sensitivity training
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
encourage this kind of thinking among men. But there are organizations which haven't bothered too much with this,
Right.
right? So I think that onus of that lies on senior management to drive these concepts down the road and make sure that the men in the organization understand this, that this is the culture they want to create in an organization.
True. True.
Because it will not happen on its own. It will
No.
never happen on its own. Men will not take the initiative, except in rare cases, to deal with inequality in an organization. So I think it has to be driven by top management, and
Yes.
that is why it's so important to have female directors on boards and female personnel in top management.
Yes.
They bring this kind of thinking right at the top, and it all flows from the top.
Yeah. Yeah. True. True. Because at a junior level, at a lower level, even men may not be in a position to take an initiative and do something which goes against the grain. You can't always do something which kind of puts the spotlight on you. So,
Right.
they could be hesitant. So if it comes from the top management, then you become
Exactly.
more aware, and then also you are more willing to take whatever action is required. So yes, you made a fair point that it is the top management which has to drive this.
Yes, absolutely.
So Rajiv, coming back to you and
Okay.
your younger self. Now, if you were to offer a piece of advice to your younger self, perhaps that wide-eyed young man at IIM Ahmedabad, what would you like to say to him now that you've lived this life?
Well, I put a chapter in the book also about some of the lessons that I had picked up along the way
Yeah, yeah,
and try to distill that into some sort of sequence. So I think there are about 10, 12 ideas that are talked about.
yeah,
The first one is think on your feet. And behind each of these is a little story,
yeah,
right? Which is in the
yeah, yeah,
So I won't tell all the stories because it will take us forever to finish. But the first one is think on your feet, which I had to do when I was graduating from IIM Ahmedabad, and I had to take a split-second decision on a job offer,
yeah.
literally within 30 seconds, because
Right,
I had been offered another job which I did not want, and I had to persuade the company I was interviewing with to issue a appointment letter before I left the room.
right, right.
That actually happened, and that's how I got my first job.
Hmm.
Think you have to think on your feet very often, not just in professional situations, but in personal situations also.
Right,
And it's a kind of a skill that you have to, I think, acquire.
correct.
The second lesson is about being on display. Everybody in a company is always on display. You may not realize it, but
Hmm.
people are watching your every move, your every behavior, your every transaction. And for instance, making presentations for many people is do or die situation. If you make a lousy presentation in front of a senior team, your chances of advancement and promotion can either go or expand substantially. So uh, it happened to me when I was in a market research job and I was doing a focus group, and
Hmm.
my next employer watched me do that and hired me because I did that well.
Right,
So
right,
you never know where this is going to happen, either positively or negatively for you, but
right.
you're always on display and people are always watching.
Correct.
Then take risks with your career.
Hmm.
So I did that with mine in the sense that I tried to take on all kinds of different roles in different industries in different countries. As I said, only because I had the support of a good educational background to tackle those things.
Hmm.
But unless you take some risks with your career, explore new industries, explore new countries, explore new, projects that you may be offered. If you don't do that, you can't really make progress, and you can't become a well-rounded corporate executive to become a general management professional.
Right,
If you want to be a very specific skills-based professional, that's different. But if you want to lead a company, be called a managing director, CEO, etc., you have to, I think, take risks.
right.
Then, as I mentioned, treat your team as your family. If you're a leader,
Hmm.
what happened to me in Sri Lanka taught me that lesson. I think wherever it is, your staff actually look at you as their family member when you are supported,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they come to you with all their issues. In fact, I'm reading an interesting book called Compassionate Leadership, which is
Okay.
contributed to by a classmate of mine who's is kind of a global CEO coach. And
Hmm.
it's amazing how many companies are now actually teaching this and practicing this, and their coaches who are coaching global CEOs are talking about this
Okay, okay.
compassionate leadership, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's, I think, another lesson which I would teach people who are beginning their careers. Then understand corporate politics.
Yes.
Because in every organization, there are undercurrents, there are fiefdoms, there are sides, there are power plays. And if you don't understand them, you can be caught on the wrong side of things. It happened to me too, which I've explained in the book.
Yes, yes.
Um, but it can happen to anybody, and you have to be alive and aware of these situations.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Then keep your knowledge current.
Yeah.
Our world is expanding. I mean, advancing so fast with all kinds of technology developments. Not as fast. I mean, when I was in my career, things were not moving at this kind of pace. But today is becoming even more critical to keep pace with what's going on because you can be behind the curve, within a few
Absolutely
months.
true.
Uh, then be comfortable in a globalizing world.
Hmm.
Now the world is sort of turning inwards now a little bit,
Yeah.
but the globalization of the world, everybody has experienced in some way or the other. And if you want to grow in your career, you will probably find yourself traveling to different parts of the world, and or at least dealing with customers in different parts of the world. And you will find that customers are very different in different countries. Their behavior, attitudes, demands, etc., are quite different. When
Correct.
I was running the Global Knowledge Center for executive search firms like Heidrick and Struggles and
Hmm.
Ego and Zinder, I was dealing with customers in 50 countries.
Hmm.
And what I realized is the way we have to tackle them, service them, keep them satisfied, asking them for repeat business, you have to understand their thinking, their culture, their needs. They're not all the same. They're very different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, the importance of networking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, I found that except for the first job that I got, which I interviewed for on IIM Ahmedabad campus,
Hmm.
all the other jobs in 41 years of corporate life, I got because I knew somebody. I never interviewed for any of those.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
Because, I mean, I may have interviewed as a formality, but
But yeah.
basically, all the jobs that I got was because I happened to know somebody who knew me and knew what I was worth
Right.
and made an offer, right? So that works. I mean, in very different ways. Networking can help you in your personal life, of course,
Yeah. Yeah.
and certainly in your professional life. And you have to remember to network not just outside your organization, but within your organization.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because there may be people today who are not working directly with you, but tomorrow might become colleague or a boss.
You're right.
So you have to be aware, and they have to be aware of you.
Correct. Correct.
Then there is a whole science behind managing performance.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
learning how to manage performance of your employees is very important.
Hmm.
There are tools, structures, processes, ways to give feedback, etc., which we all have to learn. These are not something you just develop by instinct.
Yeah. Correct.
So, so managing performance to get the best out of your employees is a critical skill, even if you're a manager of just two people. You might be a team leader of a small team. You don't have to be a CEO, but you still have to manage the performance of those two people and get the best out of them and make them want to stay on in the organization. Because today, retention is a big issue in many companies,
Hmm. Hmm.
especially with the number of opportunities opening up outside.
Hmm.
Uh, in our time, the number of job options you had was very limited.
Hmm. Hmm.
But today, you can give up your job and do a startup on something completely unrelated to what you were doing.
Absolutely.
And it works out for many people. So retention is hugely important. And the last lesson is work to the obituary that you would like to read about yourself,
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned that. Yes. Hmm.
right? So, what would you like people to say about you? What is your legacy?
Hmm.
Uh, and what I found when I talk to other people about bosses,
Hmm.
okay, usually nobody talked about how brilliant they were, how many dollars they achieved in profits, and how many companies they acquired. No.
Hmm.
Was he a good human being or not? That
Yes.
is what most people talk about.
Hmm.
When you talk about somebody who's passed on,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
you know, that is the language most people use.
Yes.
So I think that is important, and I think we should all be looking to work in that direction.
Absolutely. People always remember how you treated them, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Okay, so Rajiv, my final question. So a corporate
Yeah.
executive, then you added, author to your identity. And as
Yeah.
I got to know during the course of the conversation that there is another book which is on the way. You are contemplating that. So tell me, what else is there? Any other passion, anything else that you want to do in the future?
Well, a couple more books I think would be nice. So as I
Correct.
mentioned, I'm trying to
Yeah.
think about
Hmm.
uh, one about just a compilation of various writings. The other potentially is a book which is my go-to name for it at the moment is The Admiral's Diaries.
Okay.
So This is because I found my father's diaries after he passed away. There's some very interesting stuff in those,
Oh,
including his.
that would be interesting. Yes.
It's about how he participated in the Korean War and about what Churchill and Nehru were doing together and
Oh.
so on and so forth. So there was a logbook which he would write,
Hmm.
which had both technical issues of the day when he was serving on a ship and also geopolitical commentary,
Okay. Okay.
which was going on at that time in the 40s and 50s.
Okay.
So that might find its way into a book someday.
Hope it does. I hope it does.
So that's a thought, yeah.
Okay. So, Rajiv, while we've come to the end of the conversation, we still have the rapid fire round, which is 5
Oh,
quick questions, 5 quick answers. So,
okay.
are we set?
Yes.
Okay. So, we'll start with a simple one. A city you'd move to in a heartbeat.
London.
Okay. All right. I kind of am the same when it comes to this. All
Right.
right. The second one. One thing corporate life does not prepare you for.
Failure.
All right. Okay. Interesting. Next. One word your friends would use to describe you.
Calm.
Okay. I kind of agree. I've met you just a couple of times, but I think I agree with them. The next. A woman from history or literature who inspires you.
Vijayalakshmi Pandit.
All right. That was quick. And other than the book that you just mentioned, any other book that's left a lasting impression on you?
Many books, but I think Walter Isaacson's story of Steve Jobs
Okay, okay.
uh, and maybe The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand.
Okay, yeah, of course, I've read that. All right, so this brings us to the end of the rapid fire round and also the interaction. And if I may say, wonderful, engaging, and so inspiring to listen, because first of all, the different facets of your life and different facets of your corporate life in terms of where all you travel, the kind of experiences, really made for a very, how should I say, a very enriching experience for me also to know all about that. So, and I'm sure our listeners, our viewers will love it. And thank you so much for being on the show. I hope you had a great time being here.
Thank you so much for taking the time, and I'm honored that you will put me on your group of podcasts with eminent ladies who you've interviewed. So I'm in good company.
Yes, you are in good company. That I can tell you. All right. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to the About Her show. If you enjoyed this episode, there's plenty more from where that came from. Our previous guests have shared some amazing stories, so be sure to catch up on past episodes. To keep up with our inspiring conversations and to never miss an update, hit subscribe, rate, review, and share the love. Follow us on social media for some great content, and don't forget to check out our website www.aboutherbysangeeta.com for stories that resonate, inspire, and empower. Know a remarkable woman or an inspiring man blazing a trail? We'd love to hear from you. Drop us a note at web.abouther@gmail.com and let's bring their story to life on the About Her show.